Victor Elementary School District State of the District Address. We're very thankful for you all to be here. I know you all have a really busy days. So we appreciate you being here with us as we tell our story and tell you what's important for us now and in the future. Before we get started, can I ask everybody to please stand as we salute our American flag. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have an action-packed program for you today. Tons of great stuff. For the first time ever, we're going to take you live into one of our classrooms. So I want to give a shout out to the guys here for setting that up, Bill and Gary, and the team over at the school. So give them a round of applause. I also want to recognize some of our elected officials today. From the VDC Board of Trustees, Mr. Joe Brady. From the City of Victorville, newly appointed City Manager Keith Metzler. Let's give Keith a round of applause. Keith, congratulations. We look forward to working with you. And also, Keith, an example of VESD putting out quality talent. Keith is a graduate of Village Elementary, so let's give Village a shout out. Our CSEA President, Ruben Santos. And our CSE Vice President, Rhonda Heathcote. Representing our Assemblyman Jerry Warnke is Chris Nunez. Representing Paul Cook, Mr. Wasay Nori. Representing Scott Witt, Rebecca Tennyson. We have our Supervisor, Robert Lovingood. Thank you, Robert. And his District Director, Regina Weatherspoon Bell. We have, from our own Board of Trustees, I'd like to recognize Dr. Gabe Stein, Joyce Chamberlain, and our President, Mr. Clayton Moore. Also, our representing VITA Secretary, Starlet Hale, and our President of the Victor Valley Chamber, Mark Creffield. Where's Mark? And Chairman of the Board, Dr. Derek King. Where's Derek? There we go. Thank you. If I missed anybody, I apologize. We'll get everybody recognized at some point during the day. But now I'm just going to turn it over to our superintendent, the leader of our ship. She's going to kick it off. Superintendent Jan Gonzalez.
I have to thank you all for taking time out of your busy days to be here today. I truly appreciate it. Now, am I clicking or are they clicking? I'm clicking? All right. Just checking. Should I ask that before? So, you're going to hear a lot of things in depth today, but I'm going to start off with some brief updates for you. So, the first thing we're going to start with is the Local Control Accountability Plan. This is a year-long process for Victor Elementary School District. We have 6 committees that are listed. Nope, not there. They're on my list. We have 6 committees: the African American Engagement Committee, our Budget Committee, District Advisory Committee, District English Language Advisory Committee, our Foster Youth Committee, and our Quality Works Committee that give us input all year long for the Local Control Accountability Plan. I'm going to call it LCAP from now on. So some of the committees are staff only, others are staff and parents, and even others are staff, parents, and community members. And we truly appreciate their participation in these committees. We spend about 6 months of the year gathering their input. Then we research the viability of the ideas that they give to us and cost out every idea. So then we begin drafting the LCAP, and finally we bring it before our Board of Trustees and ask for their approval. So the updates that you see right here are what's coming out of this year's input sessions. The biggest one is to hire 6 additional psychologists so that 13 of our 17 schools will have a full-time psychologist on site. And there's a reason for this. We have over 1,100 students receiving counseling services from our local SELPA due to trauma, etc. So, those are just the ones we know about. We know there's others that need it as well. So having a full-time psychologist on our impacted sites will allow for one-on-one counseling, group counseling, and the ability to generate strategies for the teachers to use in the classroom for these students with trauma. This is our way of recognizing and respecting our students' social and emotional health. The second idea up there came out of, from a teacher in our LCAP committees, is putting a permanent site sub, and we're going to start with 2 to 3 sites because this is going to start off as a pilot. We have extreme, I guess is a good word to say, sub shortage. Therefore, classes are needing to be divided up from time to time because there's no sub to fill in for the teacher when that teacher is out. Having a permanent site sub who will start first day of school and stay with that site until the last day of school will allow that person to fill in when needed. It also allows for the sub to get to know the site, get to know the culture at the site, and the site to get to know the sub. So I'm not going to go through the rest of this list, but I'm hoping that you're reading it, because there's a lot up there that validates, this is input, and it's the input we're going to take forward, but it validates the work that's been done on previous LCAPs. So there's a lot of, please continue this. This is a lot of what we heard. Here's another update for you. Kudos to our Board of Trustees, because they had the foresight to go through the process of converting to a by trustee area method of voting over a year ago. And this new form of voting is mandated by the California Voters' Right Act. So this is different than how you voted for your board members before if you live here in Victor Elementary's district. Before, when you got a ballot, it was a bunch of people on there that could live anywhere in the city and you could pick anyone you wanted. Now, you'll look and you'll pick your preferred candidate in your trustee area where you live. And that person that you're voting for will also be living in your trustee area. So they'll be representing your chunk of Victorville there. This begins November 2018, so it's coming up here real quick. Okay. I'm going to call this Jan's highlights because these are my favorite things, that the work that went on this year. I'm really excited about a lot that's gone on in this district. First of all, unit development. Kudos to our support specialists and our on-site instructional coaches, and now I'm going to call them OSICs from now on. They have written rich, rigorous English language arts curriculum units for teachers to use. And these units also include social studies or science in it, so now you're approaching 2 subject matters at the same time. The units are focused on the California state standards, and they are including highly engaging strategies that encourage learning from our students. You may have noticed on the 2018-19 LCAP list that there was a request on there for writing units for combination classes, and they're pulling that off too. You won't find that in a textbook or anything else, but we're going to be doing that. They're doing it, not me. Test practice is the next one. So it does my heart good that our teachers recognize that our students would be disadvantaged if they don't know how to, quote unquote, drive the test before they take it. This test is a beast, and I think there's some people in here who are on some of our committees, and you've been introduced to the practice questions that any one of you can find on the Department of Education's website. The tools and the format of the questions are very different than anything they've used. I'll just give you one small example, is a calculator. They can't use their own calculators. They have to use the calculator that's on the screen. And it's not like the way we're using the calculator on my phone. It's not like that. So giving these kids the time and California has given us the access. It's enabling our students to be familiar with this before they started testing, which just happened at the beginning of this month. So we're in the middle of it now. We have a strong emphasis now on social emotional health, and I'm not going to breeze into Brian's presentation that's coming up next. I can do this. You saw that we pointed out about the psychologists that we're hiring to meet the trauma and other things that are going on with our kids behind the back. We also are working with the Blanchard Institute to grow our students' resiliency. And we are working with our classified employees so that they completely understand the importance of their role here in Victor Elementary. And our sites are working on positive behavior interventions that suit them and their students. I bet you could hear me without this. I still have my teacher's voice. Okay. Am I right now? Okay. Events. We, just like any school district, we have too many events for me to even start talking about. I don't want to slight anyone by not talking about an event that you've had at your site or elsewhere. But what I can say is this, and I'm speaking from my heart, that's why this is up here. Each site, and even our departments, which you won't hear about, are providing experiences that our students will never forget. And my hat's off to you guys right now. I'm really proud of you. Threat response, because this is on everyone's mind. Our kids watch the news just like we do, and they're very familiar with what can happen. So we have a process in place, thanks to the hard work of Eric Camarina and Don Lester, and Don and Eric are going to talk a little more about this later. But this process allows us to evaluate, monitor, and communicate when there is a threat at or near one of our sites. It's been tested already and it worked beautifully. So hats off to you guys on that, because it's a big step for us and it's good stuff. I have to congratulate Endeavor School of Exploration and West Palms Conservatory for receiving the California Distinguished School Award this year. So can we give them a hand? It was a no-brainer, so good job, you guys. And last but not least is our welcome mom. And if you haven't been there, this is going to seem trivial to you. But we have a group of directors, supervisors, and cabinet that have been going out to sites on Monday mornings to greet the kids, to welcome the kids. And here you have these big adults. And not only that, Eric provides some awesome music, even though we argue over it sometimes. It is just absolutely amazing how a little music, a high five, and a greeting puts a smile on those kids' face on a Monday morning. Not easy to do. Not only that, but the adults that are doing it, and I'm there, put a smile on our face too on Monday morning. So it's an awesome thing. If any one of you ever want to come, call our office and you will be more than welcome to come, because it's the lift you need on a Monday morning. It's absolutely fabulous. So now we're going to go into a little more depth. Up next is our Director of School Climate and Student Wellness. Here again, his position is a byproduct of the LCAP input, and it's already benefiting our students. It's my pleasure to introduce Brian Becker.
Thank you, Jan. I appreciate that. Is this working all right now? Got it. How many sound engineers does it take to screw in a light bulb? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I wanted to input a little levity here because we have some sobering statistics that we're going to look at first off. Not that, well, that's kind of sobering too, but we're going to be talking about multi-tiered system and system of supports. And part of it is due to this. Our kids are in crisis. Across the country, in our area, around the world. In 2015, which is the latest statistics we have, over 700,000 US children were the victims of abuse and neglect. More than 1.6 million of our kids are homeless. 75% of our prison population were one time in the foster youth system. 70%. 1 out of every 5 United States students will not graduate high school on time. 1 out of 5 students in this country live in poverty. 1 out of every 5 students, ages 13 to 18, have a mental health condition. Think of your classroom of 24 or 33 kids. 1 out of 5. 37% of those students drop out of school. Suicide's the 3rd leading cause of death now, ages 10 to 24. And 90% of those youth who committed suicide had an underlying mental illness. 1 out of every 7 students is chronically absent from school. That means they miss over 10% of the school year. So in 180 days, that's 18 days. That's nearly a month of school that 1 out of every 7 of our students are missing. So, what are we going to do about it? First of all, we need to all be kind. You never know what folks are bringing to the table. You never know what they're bringing into the classroom. Everyone you know might be struggling with something. I love this quote. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. So let's look at our own data here in Victor Elementary School District. Our total enrollment, 12,567. At the time I put that up there, it fluctuates from time to time. In special education, we have 1,370 students. 230 of our students are in the foster youth system. 869 of our students qualify as being homeless. Now, 830 of those are qualified as being homeless because they are doubled up with another family member, what have you. So they're doing double residency. But that still means that 39 of our students, 39 of our students have questions as to where they're going to sleep that night. And our students receiving our Desert Mountain Children's Center counseling services, as Jane Gonzalez already mentioned, over 1,200 kids that we know about that are receiving counseling services at our school sites through the Desert Mountain CELPA. Now, we have undertaken an ambitious project with the Blanchard Corporation on working on student resiliency. Resiliency is just that intrinsic ability to bounce back from adversity. Our students are struggling with enough already. We need to help them get around that and over it. So we surveyed 4th through 6th grade students across the district, and we found that 70% of our students scored in the optimal range, according to this survey through the Blanchard Corporation. 20% of our students scored in the balanced range. 8.5% classified as vulnerable. Their resiliency scores were low, that they are highly susceptible to these outside negative influences having a detrimental effect on their lives and their education. And 1% of our students scored in the impoverished range. So they're at a critical stage in terms of resiliency. So 9.5%, almost 10% of our kids are in need of support. And with over 12,000 students, that means we have over 1,200 kids who really need some extra supports in order to be successful. Within that survey, there's some very interesting questions. One of them says, is there at least one adult at your school that you can count on for support and encouragement? And of those students surveyed, 93% said yes, which is wonderful. But 7% said that there's not a single adult at their school campus that they feel they can talk to for support and encouragement. So we're working on that 7%. They also got to put down which people at the school students felt they could go to for support. And teachers You know, every child is spending the most time of those 32 and a half hours a week we get them. They're spending the most time with their teacher. And that was a very high number, their principal, of course. But look at the importance of so many of our personnel, how many kids some of our personnel meet and reach. Our health clerk at 42%. Nearly half of our kids feel if they need support for anything, they go to our health clerk. How incredible is that if you're in the health clerk position? And our office staff, our school safety coordinator and school resource officer, assistant principals, food services. How important is our food services? 1 out of every 3 of our kids can look to our food services staff for support and encouragement. Food services are great because they see every kid every day. But through our breakfast program, they're the first contact in the morning. What an important position. This has really helped us in communication with several of our support staff groups across our district to really understand the fundamental importance of everyone's job to help circumvent these glaring statistics that are preventing our kids from being successful. Other adult, custodian, and our bus drivers. Now 22% seems like a low number comparatively, but considering the fact that 25% of our kids in the district ride the bus every day, and 22% of our entire district population say that the bus drivers they can go to for support and encouragement, if we probably just only surveyed the daily bus drivers would probably be ahead of teachers for the amount of students feel they can reach out to that person for support and encouragement. So we just had a wonderful meeting with our transportation department last week and presented these statistics and talked about the importance of that, what is really a first contact. For every child that rides that bus to school every day, that bus driver is the first contact and the last contact in the afternoon when they drop them off. What an incredibly important position that is. All right, some more questions that we give our students. The one question there is, I often feel lonely. And the red and the mustard, green, yellow color, 31% of our kids often feel lonely. 1 out of every 3 students that gets on that bus, 1 out of every 3 students that walks through that cafeteria door, 1 out of every 3 students in that classroom feels lonely that day. What kind of an impact can we have on our community each day by making that connection? 50% of our kids feel they have too many things to do. A 9-year-old should not feel that they have too many things to do in a day. How can we lighten that burden? This question over here on the left, although I can learn new things, I cannot change how smart I am. More than half of our students feel that they can't change how smart they are. And instilling a growth mindset in our kids is incredibly important if we are going to build resiliency. They need to understand they can get better every day. Just as we're all trying to get better every day and trying to get smarter every day, half our kids feel they can't do that. So we need to support them properly. And I worry about a lot of things. Nearly 60% of our kids come to school worried about a lot of things, not just a few things, but a lot of things. And again, a 9-year-old should not feel they have too many things to do in a day, nor should they feel like they have to worry about all these things when they're in school. So this data helps us design our programs and our services to stem the tide. These are the suspension rates for the last 6 years. And you can see that suspension rates in the green, that is the state rate, in the red, which is the county of San Bernardino, and in the blue, for Victor Elementary School District, suspension rates have dropped precipitously in the last 6 years. Much of that is due to changes in state law as to what qualifies for suspension of students and what does not qualify. Also state laws that are requiring other means of correction be implemented prior to simply suspending a child for certain offenses. So the laws have changed and our mode of operation has changed as well, because the interventions we are applying to these situations are making a difference. We have greatly lowered the suspension rates and they're continuing to go down. If you look at this year's data so far, which we'll share it at the end of the year when we clean up all the data, but the numbers so far are looking wonderful across the board in our district. We're very proud. Another sobering statistic in our district is the chronic absentee level. And again, chronic absenteeism is missing more than 10% of the school year. So for last school year, if you were in 4th through 6th grade, you're the green bar. 13% of those kids missed a month of school. In 1st through 3rd grade, 16% of those kids missed a month of school. But 25.5% of our kindergartners missed a month of school. And what happens to those students as they go through their first 3 years? From kindergarten to 3rd grade, if you've never missed that much school, if you've never been chronically absent, on the left side, only 1% of those students who were not chronically absent, kindergarten through 2nd grade, only 1% of those kids can't read by the time they get to 3rd grade. They require reading intervention because their reading skills are too low. But just 1 year of chronic absenteeism in kindergarten, that percentage jumps to 11%. And if they're chronically absent in kindergarten and 1st grade, 19% of those kids can't read when they get to 3rd grade. And if they're chronically absent for every year, 27% of those kids are severely behind by the time they get to 3rd grade. What's it going to look like in high school? Well, here's what it looks like in high school. This is the dropout rate in our country based on chronic absenteeism. For children that have never been chronically absent from kindergarten through 12th grade, only 10% of those kids drop out of high school. But just 1 year of chronic absenteeism between kindergarten and 12th grade, it jumps to 36%. 36% from 10, just for missing a month of school at any time between kindergarten and 12th grade. So do we have an academic achievement problem in our country, or do we have an attendance problem? Do we have a suspension problem in our country, or do we have an attendance problem? 2 years of chronic absenteeism, any grades between kindergarten and 12th grade, the dropout rate in this country is above 50%. And it just keeps getting worse till eventually, the more years of chronic absenteeism, your chances of graduating high school disappear. And what kind of a workforce are we going to have with these kind of statistics if they continue? All right, so what are we doing in VESD to make a difference? How have we responded to these acute needs throughout our country, throughout our state, our county, and our district? Again, our instructional coaches have put together an incredible program called Behavior Units, basically focused on social emotional learning throughout the first 3 weeks of school. It's a 3-week curriculum for teachers that's what they teach for the first 3 weeks. And a big part of it is modeling and clearly communicating the expectations for behavior, for academic work, for all of the nuances of school, getting to the cafeteria and how the behavior is modeled for those kids. What are the rules for being safe? What are the rules for being respectful of each other? That's all encompassed in this curriculum, and we had 133 teachers pilot that curriculum this year, and if you talk to any one of those teachers, they will tell you the incredible effect it had on our kids. And then there was a refresher week halfway through the year, so you could refresh what you had taught during that period of time. So we are hoping to expand that next year and have more of our teachers not only pilot that program and continue to use it with their kids, but we are expanding the behavior curriculum so there is frequent referencing back to those basic social emotional skills that our kids need to learn. And if you want to see the great need that we have, all you need to do is visit one of our schools someday and watch kindergarten lunch, especially the first few weeks of school. Because it's amazing how many of our 5-year-old students have no idea how to use a spoon, or what a napkin is for, or even sitting down to eat, even waiting in line before it's their turn to eat. And these are social emotional skills that we are needing to teach our students because they may not be coming to us with those kind of skills based on all of those other factors we've talked about before. And the more we can strengthen and reinforce that in a positive way, then when they get to 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, the fewer behavior problems we're going to have that are going to necessitate suspensions, expulsions, and all of that other situational things that are going to really hurt our kids. Did I go through all of that? Yep. And also our multi-tiered systems of supports. We are approaching every child in a holistic way and refining our practices to make sure that when we are intervening for a child who is demonstrating behaviors that are not appropriate, who are falling behind academically, who are simply struggling with trauma in some respect, we are approaching it from the standpoint that we're going to ensure equal access and inclusive practices to all children in our district. We have learning for all. That is the mantra of Victor Elementary School District. Learning for all, whatever it takes. We align all of these systems of support with our plan, do, study, and act cycle, so we're constantly refining our practices and evaluating the data, making sure we're continuing to move forwards. We have built-in tools for sustainability throughout all of these systems of supports for our kids. We prioritize effective first instruction. The first instruction that teacher gives in the classroom is the most important aspect of success. We have individualized intervention based on data and team collaboration, and we promote, rather than exclude, family and community involvement. And one of those ways is the incredible numbers of support groups we have that Jan listed that provide input on how we do business in Victor Elementary. And one of the best ways we can show how we do business and the example of what effect that can have on a child is in a wonderful video that I encourage you to Google, YouTube, and watch it every day before you go to work. Especially if you work in education, it'll change your life if you keep watching it. But this is a tremendously powerful short little video called Every Opportunity. And what we do in VESD and what we're committed to is making sure that we don't waste any opportunity with a child. We take full advantage to every opportunity our children have. Please enjoy the video.
Hey, Mr. Q! Did you see that? Why would somebody do that?
Please go into the classroom, no talking, quietly.
Hey, Miss Meredith, how you doing?
We need you inside.
How do you think that makes us feel? I forgot my number.
What's your name?
Jordan?
What's your last name?
Carter?
Go ahead.
School is hard enough.
Come on in, sit down quietly at your desk, and begin writing.
This kind of stuff just makes it harder.
I said quietly, please. Who's talking? Is it you, Sophie? Don't let me hear.
Don't believe me?
Sophie.
Please just watch.
I'm not up here for me, I'm up here for you. Pay attention. Okay? Now somebody answer me. Somebody needs to answer me really fast.
Every time we're ignored or yelled at or silenced, the teacher takes away what's possible.
No horseplay, no running, and especially no talking.
Moment by moment.
Miss Garrity, your students' behavior yesterday in the lunchroom, it was terrible. Next time, silent lunch.
Did you hear that? Stay in line and catch a ball. I'm not playing.
If this is education, we're in trouble. Bye, Miss McGarrity. Frederick Douglass said, once you learn to read, you'll be forever free. The way it is now, 2 of the 3 of us will never be able to really read. It doesn't have to be this way.
Hey, Jordan, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
Everyone we meet throughout our day can make a difference.
I've been waiting for you to arrive.
All the difference.
Good, how are you? Hi, Jordan. Hi, Jason. Good morning, Jordan.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good.
Go ahead, put your number in.
Talk with us, not at us.
That's okay. I'll look it up for you. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Okay.
All right.
Teach us what we need know. That's how we get smarter.
Well, good morning, Sophie, Janicia, and Jordan.
And when you talk with us and teach us, give us bigger and bigger words.
Now what I'd like you to do, children, is turn around and converse with your neighbor and discuss where the mother might have gone.
Words that we can use to read and understand.
She's praying for eagles, so she hugs at night.
And that will take us places we could never reach without you.
Remember, we're entering the learning zone. Now, how can we show our respect to the children and teachers who are working?
We can walk quietly.
Yes. Okay, kids, so what I'd like you to do is continue writing your narrative, documenting your emotions. If you were the baby owl and your mother abandoned you in the nest.
What can you do? Learn all that you can so that you can challenge us to be our best.
You would have stayed and assisted them in whatever they needed.
Share yourself with us and show us how to share ourselves with others. Give us courage. Give us compassion. Help us find our own voices so we can become who we are meant to be.
Why would you want to silence us?
I always cry at the end, I'm an old softy. But that's what we're about in Victor Elementary, making use of every opportunity with every single person in our district to have those kids go out the door eventually and have a future brighter than we could ever imagine. So I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Maureen Mills, Assistant Superintendent of Personnel.
Good morning. Before I get started on my section, I wanted to go back, if we could click back here to this young gentleman here. This young gentleman is one of our students, and he's also on the Foster Youth Committee, and he provides input, and he actually developed the last event that they had at Scandia. He developed it and helped organize the whole thing for our foster youth and their families. So I just wanted to recognize this young gentleman. So I get to talk to you a little bit about employee wellness. And as you can see from some of the statistics, we have to be at our best so that we can help our students. So in BESD, wellness means that our employees are professionally, socially, financially, psychologically, and physically fit. It's the BESD way. We value all of our employees and we want them to be the best that they can be for all of our students. When our employees are at their best, we feel like we can reach one of our board goals, which states that all staff will support every student in reaching their full potential. For professional wellness, BESD has some of the best professional development in the entire county. That's a pretty big county, so you know it's pretty good professional development. We provide training for every employee so that they can increase their skill and knowledge in order to meet the needs of all of our students. For physical wellness, we participate in a Walk-A-Do program. This is through a partnership with our High Desert Employee-Employer Trust. This program encourages participants to keep track of their steps, and they can earn money for meeting their personal step goals weekly. You can see I have my Fitbit. I want that money. Here's some data. So in 2017, our whole High Desert Trust, we had 482 participants across the trust. And they walked 411 million steps. This year, we have about 506 participants across the whole trust. And as of 1/1/18, they have walked 101 million steps. So we know we're going to beat last year's step count. In BESD, we had approximately 182 winners in last year's contest. That was 182 people that won a total of $6,840. So keep walking. Employees are also invited to attend our second annual Employee Wellness and Health Benefits Fair. The event offers a one-stop shop for insights into the best benefit strategies and tools available for health and wellness. 40 vendors will participate in this year's fair. 180 of our employees attended last year, and we're hoping that more will join us this year. For physical wellness and social wellness,
We also participate in the High Desert Fitness Challenge, a community event that's sponsored by Desert Valley Charitable Foundation. The High Desert Fitness Challenge includes businesses and seniors competing in more than 30 events over a 3-week period. The Fitness Challenge promotes workplace wellness, team building, encourages a healthy and fit community. VESD had approximately 80 employees participate last year, and I am proud to say we were number 1. We anticipate that next year we will keep our first place trophy. Additionally, we host an annual employee picnic. This is a great way to have some fun and to also get to know each other better. For financial wellness, we regularly send out info on a variety of financial topics, from maximizing your 401k to information on upcoming seminars regarding retirement. There are even online courses that can help you improve your overall financial knowledge. I have had the opportunity to just share a few of the things that we do with and for our employees. Our employee satisfaction and wellness is extremely important to us. It's the VESD way. Thank you so much.
Please welcome to the stage Debbie Betts, Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services.
Good morning. Nice to see everybody here today. So I'd like to start off by sharing a quote by former U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, Jacob Lew, who said, "The budget is not just a collection of numbers, but an expression of our values and aspirations." So I'm here to talk to you about budgets this morning. And budgets are more than just numbers. Every budget tells an organization's story and is a reflection of what's important to them and what they're trying to achieve. So you're hearing a lot this morning about what we're doing here at VESD. And of course, we need to make sure that there's budget there to support all of those things. So when we develop the budget, it's our job to allocate the resources based on our priorities, initiatives, goals, and objectives. So as I share our budget with you this morning, my hope is that you'll see behind the numbers and see the budget as a reflection of who we are at Victorelle. So I'm going to start with our enrollment. The first numbers here show that we have increased 1,372 students since 11-12. We're now at approximately 12,500 students, and that represents a 12% growth over the past 6 years. So next, we're going to take a look at our revenue and expenses for the year. So we're projected to receive about $137.4 million this year in our general fund from various sources, the biggest of which is $117 million from our local control funding formula. $90 million of that is from the base, and $27 million is in the supplemental and concentration. We're expecting $9.6 million from federal funds like Title I, Title II, and Title III. $10.3 million in other state funds such as lottery, the after-school education and safety grant, and mandated costs. The last piece of revenue is other local revenue for leases, interest, and other miscellaneous items at about $500,000. So looking at the expenditures, we're projecting them at $135 million, with the top 3 expenditures being salaries and benefits at $104 million, operating expenditures at $18.1 million, and books and supplies at $6.7 million. You can see that we're projecting that our revenue will be higher than our expenses by about $2.1 million. And although we're projecting at this point that increase, we haven't settled negotiations yet with both of our bargaining units, so we do expect that number will change. So I have one more slide with numbers for you. This slide shows the beginning balance of $25.8 million with an ending fund balance of $28 million. So as school districts, we break down our ending fund balance into components, including those that are not spendable, like revolving cash and stores and prepaid expenses. We also have restricted balances that have to be used for certain purposes. And then we have assigned balances, which are funds that we set aside for planned expenditures like textbooks or buses. So since those pieces are not spendable, they've been set aside for other uses, we don't include them in our total reserve. So once we back these items out of our ending fund balance, we're left with a reserve of $20 million, which is about 15% of our expenditures. Okay. So those are the numbers, and our reserve is really a good place to jump in on our story. So VESD historically has had a very healthy reserve. As I said, a district of our size, or maybe I didn't say, a district of our size is only required to have 3%, and we always have in the range of about 15 to 20%. 17 is our ideal, where we'd like to be, and we've done a really good job of being able to stay there. And the reason that we do that is our fiscal solvency is one of our highest values here. And some of the reasons for that are, I'm sure you've all heard that old saying out there, cash is king. So when we have cash, we don't have to borrow. So we're actually earning money in interest instead of paying it. It also allows us to be more flexible. Back when we went through the major cuts that we went through in 07, 08, it allowed us to take our time and make thoughtful cuts rather than having to just slash programs that were very impactful, and a lot of districts had to do that. We were able to make thoughtful cuts. It allows us to pay for unexpected emergencies, finance other programs that we might not be receiving cash on, and it allows us to start up new schools, one of which you're going to be hearing about here in a little bit. It takes about $1.5 million to open up a new school just to add the core staff there of the office staff, the administration, and the custodial. And then, of course, just the utilities that it takes. The biggest thing, though, is it really helps us with our bond ratings. So when we do build a school, we sell bonds to be able to build that school. And so when we go out to market, we need to make sure we have a strong rating to attract interest in our bonds. So we did just have our annual review from Moody's, and in the review they noted that our credit position is very healthy. The district has a strong financial position, favorable with respect to the rating they assigned us, which was a AA3. The cash balance as a percent of our operating expenditures exceeds the US median, so I'm happy to say we're in really good shape financially. Okay, so, we still looking at the revenue one there? Yeah. Okay, so this slide illustrates our revenue sources as a pie chart, and I'm going to concentrate on the largest piece because there's a lot of pieces there, but you can see the two biggest ones right there. Those are funds that we get from the local control funding formula. I'm going to call it LCFF because it's kind of a mouthful. The LCFF funds make up 85% of our budget. We have very little control over how much money we get. It's all based on how many students we have and how often they're attending school. So unlike most districts in California that are in declining enrollment, we are so fortunate, as you saw on that slide, we've been growing. And that's great because we have no control. The part that we can influence to some degree is how many days our students attend. And we'll talk about this a little bit more later on. So as I mentioned earlier, the LCFF is made up of two components, the base grant and the supplemental concentration grant. At $90 million, the base grant makes up 65% of our revenue. And its purpose is really to cover the cost of operating our core programs and any operational costs. Of that $90 million, $84.4 million goes towards salaries. We are experiencing increases to statutory benefits in the STRS and the PERS. We're also increasing, as are all of you, increases to minimum wage out there. So there's additional pressure on our budget. While at the same time, our base grant is kind of getting to the point now where it's leveled off and we're not receiving as much money. And as a result, it's getting squeezed tighter and tighter, and we have less to cover basic needs like the instructional materials, supplies, and utilities. This is a common story throughout California, with the base becoming insufficient to cover the cost of the core programs. At $26.9 million, the concentration and supplemental grants make up 20% of our revenue. The amount that we receive is based on our number of unduplicated pupil counts of low-income English language learners and foster youth. And it has to be used specifically to provide increased or improved services to those students to improve outcomes for those at-risk populations. We are at 85% with our unduplicated pupil count. That's a high percent. We have the vast majority of our population that has a need for supplemental supports and services. Okay, so moving on to the expenditures here. You can see all the different pieces there, but I'm going to focus on one. So we have 17 schools, including 2 charters, and approximately 12,500 students. So, reflecting kind of on what you heard from Brian, I want to go back to, for me, our budget, I think what this really is a reflection of is it takes a village to raise a child. In order to create the conditions that support student achievement in a district of our size, it really does take a village, which is why salaries and benefits are our largest expenditure at 77% of the budget. So our VESD village has about 1,500 employees, and they're made up of both certificated and classified staff, and every single one of them has a role in our village. The certificated staff are those that hold a teaching credential, and classified staff are our support staff. Most certificated staff work directly with students, with the majority being classroom teachers. However, there's a lot of support staff as well. We have speech therapists, psychologists, nurses, support specialists, on-site instructional coaches or OSICs, and administrators. So on our classified side, those are the non-credentialed staff who work at our schools or in one of the 14 departments that you see up there on the screen. Classified staff support teachers teaching and students learning by making sure that they have the supplies that are needed, making sure that technology is working, facility and grounds are welcoming and in good repair, buses get students to school on time, playgrounds are supervised, classrooms are clean, food is nutritious and delicious, records are kept, bills are paid, campuses are safe, and I could just go on and on. The list is endless. There is a lot that happens behind the scenes to support student achievement. So Maureen was referencing our employees, and at VESD we do believe strongly that our greatest strength, our greatest resource is our employees, and we do invest substantially in professional development to build capacity and efficacy, both through in-house support from our support specialists and OSICs, as well as outside PD. And then lastly, I just want to touch back on what I said earlier about the piece we can influence of how often students attend school. And you heard, we have an issue with chronic absenteeism. So in education, there are some things that we know. We know that students want to come to school when they're actively engaged in their learning. We know that students want to come to school when they feel safe. We know that students want to come to school when they feel supported and cared for. So when we couple that, what we know, with the challenges and needs of our students, what we know that they're facing out there, it's evident, and I hope it's reflected in our budget, that it really does take a village. Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Dale Etter, Director of Facilities, discussing our new Elevado School.
know me, you know I love building things, so this is going to be fun. Okay, as Debbie told you, enrollment's up, so we're getting less and less classroom space. Class size reduction used up a lot of classroom space. We opened Galileo School, which has about 27 classrooms, which opened up some available seating. We moved Mountain View Montessori to another facility, which opened up classrooms at Lomitas, or Liberty. And then when we moved Galileo, we actually opened up 12 classrooms there for space. We have utilized most of them. We still need more space. So in October of 2015, being the VSD way that we do, we pulled the community together and we started talking design of the next school. This came down as a parameter from our board that we wanted a 21st century type school. So that took input from a lot of people. Because I'm not a classroom teacher, so I'm going to have teachers in there to tell me how those classrooms need to be designed. I'm going to need cooks in there to tell me how the kitchens need to be designed. So we include everybody in that design meeting. So we completed that design phase with several renditions in June of 16. At that point in time, we handed it off to the architects and engineers to start designing the technical part of the design. In November of 2016, we purchased the land for that. Just north of Mojave on El Ibado, you'll see some construction going on over there if you happen to drive over there. So in August of 2017, we got the Department of State Architect to approve our design, and we're ready to start looking at, of course we look at budget all the time. I'm going to start talking a little bit about budget when we're talking about this, but we're looking at budget all the way through this design. So during the constructability review, we're adjusting budget, going back and forth between my office and Debbie's and saying, Debbie, I need more money. No, you need to cut some things. So those are discussions we have all the way through. So we do some value engineering and we get it into budget. So in December of 2017, we actually opened up bids and voila, we were in budget. So we're happy about that. January of 2016, the board approved the bids and contracts were signed. And that's quite an ordeal signing that many contracts. We do multi-pronged bids, so it's a stack of contracts I take into Debbie. February of 2018, we started construction. We started seeing water go down so we could start grading. And we had our groundbreaking ceremony in March after we got everything graded and nice and safe for our groundbreaking ceremony crew. This lasts since March to April. Currently, if you go out there, we have all the underground electrical, plumbing, utilities in, and we're framing all the footings for the building. So next month, we'll be pouring concrete because that building's about 67,000 square feet, so it'll be probably all month pouring concrete. And then through June, really of October, all the way through October to June of next year, we'll be putting in electrical, framing walls, finishing the building off. And then in September, we'll actually be I want to step ahead of myself here. In September, we'll be doing roofing to get it dried in just before the rainy season, so we continue to move forward for June to finish construction. And then in June of 2019, it'll be complete. July, we'll be moving in. And in August, we'll be starting school. Thanks.
Next up, thanks, Dale. Next up, we have our Family Resource Center Supervisor, Jorge Escalante.
All right, so let's get rid of that picture real quick. I've worked for VESD for 10 years now. 2 of those years I've had the privilege of serving in the Family Resource Center. The Family Resource Center came about because VESD has an open ear to the district parents. The parents wanted a place where they would have an opportunity to learn, to grow, and train in order to help their children, and they got it. VESD remodeled a part of their building just a couple blocks down, and just a couple blocks down from here, and provided these parents and the community with this safe, trusted space with many important resources. I don't know if it's me shaking or listening. So the purpose of the Family Resource Center is to build respectful, trusting relationships between home and school, and to grow the capacity of staff and families to engage in partnerships that will support each student's achievement and learning. When we began to develop the programs and the resources that the center would provide, we did have some challenges there. And I'm blessed to be a part of a team that works together and goes out of their way to help in any area needed and make things happen. So together we were able to open the center in the 2016-17 school year. It was a challenge to get parents informed and have them buy in to the classes and workshops being offered. So for the first school year, 2016-17, we had a total walk-ins of 2,645, and we did offer 16 classes. As of last week, or as of Monday, we had registered 5,100 walk-ins, 5,144. So the word is spreading, and we're happy with that. And by the end of the school year, we will have held 19 classes for this school year. So, in seeing these numbers, I invite you to see past the numbers and just to look at the families that the numbers represent. We're currently faced with the challenge of having to waitlist parents for many of our classes, which is a good problem to have. Some of the classes that have taken place include computer basics, citizenship, handing classes, parent project, love and logic. These are all parenting classes, of course. Mental health. We've had pronunciation, ESL courses, citizenship, a Spanish class, and It's Not New Math, which focused on the new state standards. So we want to educate our parents and prepare them so that their children, our students, have better opportunities and are more prepared to accomplish whatever they want in life. As our parents become more confident, our students have a greater possibility of reaching their full potential. For example, again in the It's Not New Math class, it was very impactful. It was amazing, beautiful even to hear parents come back to share how, for the first time, they were able to connect with their kids through their homework. The parents' confidence grew as they were able to explain math problems to their kids, and of course the kids' admiration grew for the parents. Family Bilingual Storytime is another one of our programs that has brought families together. It is a program run by VESD parents themselves, and families love to come in and hear stories being read in English and translated into other languages. At the end of each session, they get to work on an activity with the family, of course, and take home a free book that is donated by one of our partners, Feed the Children. So to this day, we've had 822 combined parents and students walk in to share in Family Bilingual Storytime. So another challenge that we've had was having the resources and information needed on hand at the center whenever parents would come in. So when parents or people from the community are in search of something that we don't have, we strive to make it something we can provide or have the information available on where they can find it. We've been able to develop many great partnerships. We continue to learn from other resource centers throughout the county, and VDC has helped us to grow our ESL program, where more than 300 parents have benefited, advancing their communication skills and knowledge of the English language. Many parents who have taken these courses no longer find themselves in need of a translator. Some have even successfully completed some of our classes that are offered in English at the center. We have companies who are helping us, such as Victor Community Support Services. They provided more than 15 workshops on mental health just this school year alone. and we're working with them on strategies for the next coming year. We continue to receive training from San Bernardino County on parent engagement and have created partnerships with many parent engagement centers and resource centers, not only in the High Desert, but throughout the county. So it's good to hear that the parents approve of the things that are going on in the Family Resource Center and that they support it. We had a parent say, "I love this Family Resource Center. Come and find support. I have seen wonderful reactions from my child, and we're ever closer." I also have an ongoing support group, which is what we strive to have there at the center, where parents can come in and find the support that they need, and other parents as well. Another parent said, "I've gained knowledge towards understanding my children better. I've been given many tools in order to have better relationships with them. Everything we do plays an important role towards their success in life. Thank you for offering this class." That was on one of the classes that a parent took. So we've grown, but I don't believe that we're done. We will continue to check the pulse of parents and the community for their needs and not simply provide what we feel that they need. We want to expand supports to educate parents on their role in their students' education. We want to empower parents to active participation at their children's school. And since we understand that some parents can't come to the center, or it's difficult for them to find transportation to the center, we're taking steps towards our future goal of having our resources at each one of our schools. VESD is doing great things. Basic number 1 says, the decisions we make are for the good of all students. Everything that we do is for the kids, to ensure that the students and their families have a chance to succeed. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage Candy Ramirez, Support Specialist for Good Services.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your breakfast. I know anytime you can start a day with bacon, it's got to be a good day. And those of you who aren't allowed to have bacon, I promise I won't tell. So I'm going to start off with our 21st century segment. And we have integrated our 21st century learning throughout our schools and throughout our programs that we've done across the district. So as a quick review, the 4 C's that encompass 21st century learning are communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. So to start, we have engaged in starting our robotics program. So for some of you might think, well, what is robotics? What is VEX Robotics? So VEX Robotics is a program that we have jumped into. They have local competitions, and they even go as far as to have worlds. You can make it all the way to worlds competition, which will happen at the end of this month. So our district, our gracious cabinet, said, why not do it for the entire district? Why should it be just a couple of schools or clubs participating? Everybody jump in. So we said, where do we begin? Well, let's start with buying kits for all our school districts. So I'm sure when cabinet announced that to our principal, it must have been an Oprah moment where they said, you get robots, you get robots, you get robots. I wish I was there. So that was exciting. Then we thought, great, we got robots. Now what do? We weren't sure, so we started a teacher boot camp. We had no idea about the VEX program. We didn't know anything about the challenges. We had no idea of how the game was ran. So our 21st century learning started here. We invited all our teachers, one from every district. Don't tell anybody, but they had a lot of fun. And we just broke out those robots. We put them together. We communicated. We collaborated. Some critical thinking went into how am I going to get a group of elementary students together to put a robot together with all those tiny little parts? That is a challenge. So we got together, our teachers, and some of them are here in this room, ventured out, started their programs. They either did morning programs, after school programs, some of them integrated them within their day, and they had full support of their staff and their principals. So we said, we're ready for competition. Still not knowing what we were doing, so it went great because we didn't know really what would happen. So our first competition, thank you Village for hosting our very first competition. Give them a hand. In their cafeteria, we had 11 schools participate. They brought 33 teams with them. And some of you might think, okay, what is a robotics competition? There was no flame throwing, they didn't destroy each other. It was more of an alliance. Those 33 teams were teamed up randomly with another team. Their goal was to earn as many points as possible. The VEX system gives us a new challenge every year, and this year was called Crossover. And their goal was to earn as many points as possible. They had to communicate with each other. They had to collaborate with each other. If something went wrong with their robot, they had to go back, make adjustments, critically think through that, or use their creativity and fix the problem. So, who would have thought at the end of the day, we thought, this was awesome. How can we do it better next year? Well, being VESD as we are, we made improvements. So this year, we had 14 schools participate. They brought a total of 42 teams. We split the days up and we had half of the schools come one day and half of the schools come another day. We still had our alliance matches, but this year we actually visited every school that participated and signed up, and we did an individual skills match where they, as an individual team, were allowed to earn points, and they earned awards for second and third place. We had our alliance matches, and as competitive as our teachers are, they said, why don't we have a grand champion match? The winners from day one can compete against the winners from day two. And we said, sure, that'd be great. So we had kind of an East Coast, west side, east side thing going on, which wasn't intentional, it was just transportation. That's how it worked out. So thank you, transportation, for doing a great job of getting all our kids to the fairgrounds during the day so we can have more participation. We include more kids and everybody can be involved. We had it at the fairgrounds. It was amazing. If you weren't there for that final match, you missed out, I have to tell you. It was awesome. So coming up this year, we're real excited. We're working on increasing participation. We're having each school bring 4 teams instead of 3 teams. We're thinking, how can we possibly make this better? Well, I'm glad to hear that Dale likes to build things because I'm thinking like stadium seating, smoke machine, confetti cannon, community members. We take donations at 2nd Street. Help us out. But before I end, I have to say, this competition was not a lot of fun. It couldn't have been any better, but I'll tell you, Cabinet supported us, the principals at every site supported their teachers, our Ed Services Department jumped in and staffed it, bought everything that we could to make the event successful and made it sustainable year after year. Our teachers worked hard to work with those students and those tiny little parts and come in after school, before school, integrated in their day, and finally, our tech department, oh my gosh, they were amazing. We thought last year was awesome. This year they were able to live stream the event, which like who does that, right? VESD does that. And our parents Our parents supported us, they supported their school sites, they brought the kids where they needed to be there, and some of them are active in your PTOs at sites where they fundraise and they're growing their programs. So let's give everybody a hand who helped out. It was definitely a team effort. So take out your phones, February 26th and 27th of 2019, we've already booked the venue. Hopefully you got plans for that stadium seating. Maybe you got smoke machines ordered. Debbie, there's money in that budget. So thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage Jen Spots, on-site instructional coordinator.
So that's a throwback Thursday picture. Let's play a game really quick while they're getting my mic set up. This table you can't play. Sorry, Jan. What year? Guess the year. Go ahead and shout it out.
1975.
We have beat right now. That's why he said that. Go ahead. Guess the year. I heard 1981. 86. 87. So this is Liberty Kinder year, and it was when the portable was just, or the, sorry, cafeteria was just a portable. So look how much we've grown. Isn't that crazy? Can I switch out now? Sorry, I have to stand up here. Is this working? Wait. I can start singing because I know they can plug it.
Please bear with us a second. We're getting ready to begin the live transmission from our off-site school. So there's a mic switch in progress. Speaking of live streaming, this event is being live streamed on the VESD YouTube website. So there's currently dozens and dozens of people watching from across the world on that camera.
There we go. Okay, go ahead and take a look at the screen. What I would like you to do is choose 4 or 5 qualities that you would like to see in the people you hire or in the people you work with. All right, raise your hand if you had at least 1 or more of these in your list of top 5. And thank you for Candy for introducing the 4 C's. We call these the 4 C's. So last year, if you were here, you may remember that we walked you through the 3-act math lesson that demonstrated the 21st century skills. It was the file cabinet that we had to cover with the Post-its and do all of that math. Well, today we're going to go ahead and do a live look into a 2nd grade classroom where you're going to see the 4 C's demonstrated. At any time, if you think of a question that you would like to ask a student, go ahead and use the 3x5 cards at your tables and write it down. I don't know how much time we'll have, but if we do have a few minutes at the end, then you guys can go ahead and turn those in. Mrs. Potter will walk around and collect them, and we can ask the students some of these questions. Right now, I'm going to switch my mic so that they can hear me and be ready for me. Bear with us because this is something new that we're trying out. But right now we're going to turn it over to Cass, who is with Mrs. Cashin in the 2nd grade classroom. Hello, you guys. Hello, you guys.
It's Cass. I'm here in Mrs. Cashin's room. Her 2nd graders are working on a project, and I'm going to let Ms. Cash on exactly what we're going to be seeing today.
Good morning, and as you guys know, I'm Mrs. Cashin, and welcome to our 2nd grade classroom. Today you're going to get a little sneak peek into our 21st century station. And we mainly focus on the 4 C's. Our first station is going to be a pre-planning station where they're working in their STEM journal. It's like a pre-planning stage where they focus on how can we create something that will fit. There's a collaboration going on, communicating, creativity, and critical thinking. Our second station is going to be the building stage, and this is where all the students collaborate to put their ideas together and create something that will spin. Their third station is the reflection stage, where they will talk what went well, what didn't go well in their station, in their creation, and how could they have made the creation even better. Their fourth station is their, it's like a communication station, where they're communicating their ideas onto a flow map on their Chromebook, on what were the stages that they did to create something to spin, and then their story goes on top of their, they type their story from their flow map, and then the final station is their coding station, where you'll see again critical thinking, collaboration, all the 4 C's, where they have to have the mouse eat cheese. They have to also code a botly to go through a maze and come all the way back. So we welcome you and hope you enjoy.
Okay, follow me. We're going to go to station 1 first. Hi, good morning, guys. Morning. What are we working on here today?
We are working on a study journal.
The STEM journal, and what kind of a question are we answering?
I'm looking for
And what's your problem that you're trying to solve?
to make something.
Awesome, okay. So you're in the first part of your stage right now. And would you mind looking back to your blueprint so we can kind of show everybody our home? And here's the blueprint, the drawing stage that goes along with the problem solving. Thank you so much. Let's go to station 2. So here at station 2, we can kind of see how they're using their creativity to figure out how to make something spin. So what are we working on here?
We're working on trying to make something spin and combining our minds to create just one thing and try to make it spin.
So you guys are all working together? Can we see the item that you guys are working on?
Just to like make these spin at the top.
Make those spin at the top?
And we use this so I can actually see. So we need to attach this to this so that they can make a spin.
Awesome skill. Keep up the great teamwork, guys. Let's go on to station 3. Hi, good morning. How are we doing over here? Doing good? Can you explain what you're working on right now?
We made something spin like this, and
That is so neat.
and we're on a STEM journal, and we're learning how we can make it better, and
What are some ideas that your team came up with on how to make it better?
we can make it better by making it bigger. We're putting a big block, so this student here can fit in it, and then we can put more wings on it so it can spin faster and make it bigger and more creative.
Okay, so do you want to make it bigger and faster? Wow, that sounds really awesome. I can't wait to see the end result on that. Thank you so much. Let's go on to station 4. Hi, good morning, guys. How are we doing? What are we working on?
Trying to make something spin. Right now we are on our Chromebook typing the stages of how we spin.
Oh, would you mind showing the folks that, in the audience what you're working on?
Because we already made something spin, as you can see, and now we're writing about the stages of how we made our creation, and now we have to write down the stages that we did to do.
So we have our flow map here describing the process. Excellent, thank you. On to station 5. All right, and here at station 5, you can see there's 2 things happening. One, they are programming a robot, and then over here as well, they're also programming a mouse. And so we're gonna ask the kids exactly how they're going about this process. So what are we doing here?
This one will turn, but for this, we already built it.
Okay.
So when you press this, that was this.
Wow.
But when you put like that, stop. But then it'll go back anyway. So like that, then it'll stop, it'll go like that. So his name is Bobby.
There we go.
So his name is Bob. So he was already right there, so now he's right there. So we have to make him go right there, turn around, back. So then, that's how we get them.
And can you explain the arrows? What do the arrows mean?
The arrows, are where you want to go.
And can you tell me, the first time you guys did this, did you have the right arrows in place?
Yeah.
So what happened when you didn't have the right arrows in place?
He went over there and to the Sally's and so these traps. So this guy said they do horse, so me and my friend Ryan, all I did this. Then he stopped right because we can get it for something. So we did two laps and we got it up.
So you went back and you learned from the obstacle of making it go the wrong way and you corrected it by making it go the right way? Oh, great critical thinking skills. Thank you so much for sharing. Can we see Bobby move?
I'm just going straight. Well, do you want to see something else?
Yeah, let's see him turn around.
So you're just going to press together.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Does anybody think of any questions? I have a question for you. I want to know what they've learned from the project so far.
What they've learned in the project so far? Okay. Here, why don't we come over to you here? What have you learned from this project so far?
We learned to work together as a team and
collaborate. Awesome. Do you like working as a team? Yeah. Do you like working? What do you prefer, working by yourself or as a team? As a team. Great. And you get to share ideas with all of your team members? Yes. Nice. Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, we have somebody with a request. They would like the kids to give a thumbs up if they're having fun while they're learning.
Oh, everybody, give a thumbs up if you're having fun while you're learning today. And can we give a big wave to the audience? Thanks again.
Thank you guys. That's our second grade class, and look what amazing things they're doing.
One more time, a round of applause for everybody involved in that project. It's fantastic. And second graders, that means they're 7 years old, right? 6, 7, 8 years old? 7-year-old kids doing that work. That's incredible. Next, we're getting ready to get to the end of our program, but this is probably one of the most important aspects of what we're doing. So I'd like to invite up Mr. Don Lester, Director of Safety, Operations, and Transportations.
Good morning. So let's put up the old guy after we show a second grade class with technology. I'll put up the old bald-headed guy so that I can talk about pencils and papers. So thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. You know, this morning when I was asked to talk about this, I kind of had to take a look and say, how do you take a 2-hour conversation and you turn that into 5 or 6 minutes so that I can kind of give the highlights of what we've been doing here at Victor Elementary School District? When you look at that, the thing that you see in the news and see across broadcasts are all the issues with lockdowns and school safety and do we have proper security and things of that nature, but there's so many other aspects that we have to look at on a daily basis when we're looking at schools. What I thought I'd do is break it down into 4 areas let you know how Victor L. kind of takes a look at it, and then kind of move on there with some highlights of some of the things and programs that we've been putting in place. Excuse me, allergies are getting me a little bit this morning. The 4 areas that we've been looking at, and we continue to look at, is our training, how we conduct our drills, preparing for disaster preparedness, and also our day-to-day school safety programs. When you're looking at training, we really have to take a look at staff, students, our community, our parents. We have to look at making sure that we're giving training across the board. How do we do that? Through strategic planning. We look at different areas. Come up on that a little bit. We look at different areas of that training. We look at presentations. Tabletop discussions are big in our school district, as far as at our school sites. And we also look at different discussions, conferences, and seminars. When you look at conducting drills, the state of California pretty much does that for us. It's compliance that we have to have a monthly drill each and every month. And then our district on top of that has district-wide drills. We look at earthquake drills, lockdown drills, bomb threats, fire drills, things of that nature. Looking at disaster preparedness. Each and every one of our schools have a container at their school site, and we provide enough supplies and so forth for first aid, water, things of that nature. How we're going to make sure we got to feed our kiddos if we have any kind of situation where they have to have an extended period of time at our schools. We actually have a program where we change our water every 3 years to make sure that, of all things, we got to have to clean water if we're going to have to keep our kids at our schools. And then our day-to-day safety, drop-off, pick-up, things of that nature, crosswalks, bus safety, playground inspections, maintenance and grounds concerns, and of course, campus security. As we move into the next section, I want to talk to you a little bit about how we've broken it down. I have 6 or 7 different areas that I've broken down. Do you guys have the clicker? Okay, go ahead. Got it. I have 6 or 7 different areas that I want to talk to you about, how we kind of look at Victor L. and how we're moving forward with the different areas that we have. The first one, I'm very proud to say that we have school resource officers. We started this program in 2007, 2008 with 1 school resource officer. And now to date, we have 3 school resource officers. And for those of you who don't know what a school resource officer is, they're actually a deputy sheriff. So we're providing 3 deputy sheriffs district-wide to make sure that we can meet any of the needs that we may have from a security standpoint. They're not only there at our school sites to help with situations that may occur, but they're also there to help with our SARB hearings. They're there and they go on home visits if necessary. They help with many other aspects of security. They're involved in our lockdown drills. When we actually do a lockdown drill, we bring them along with us and they give us valuable input from their point of view. I really have to take a look over here and thank, I so much as the safety director appreciate our board and our cabinet that they put that kind of emphasis on funding that we have, because many other districts across this high desert do not fund school resource officers. So I want to give a round of applause for our board and our cabinet. As we move on, we've talked about how we value our employees and we want to make sure that they're safe too. We have a company called Blue Knight Security and we've expanded their services. So we actually have someone there at night that processes through our after-school programs as we move into our night custodians and other activities that we may be having at night, that we actually have a security company that's out there each and every night. We've had other security companies in the past, but these guys are the real deal. They're there, they respond whenever we need them. And in case of emergency, if we did have a situation, these guys are retired police officers, so they would know how to respond to a situation if necessary. The next area that I want to talk about is safe and secure campuses. We have what we call safe and secure campuses, but they're really a closed campus. And we started that program about 4 or 5 years ago, where we have a single point of entry at each and every one of our schools. We are an elementary school district, and we want to make sure that we're inviting. We got little kiddos, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're safe. So as we have one point of entry, we know that everybody's coming in through the office area and making sure that we keep that consistency district-wide. Along with that, we have magnetic strips and little red locking devices. You'll see at a lot of our school sites as you walk through, and visit our school sites. And basically, they're so that we can keep our doors locked 24/7, but we still have the opportunity to enter and exit as necessary, so that in the case if we did have a situation or emergency situation, teacher does not have to come out, worry about locking the door, it's already locked, they pull a little magnetic strip, or move a little lever over and boom, their door can shut automatically so that we can have that closed room if necessary. As we move in, we've given our front office an extra tool, and that's called our Raptor system. That identifies any person through our Megan system that may not be the type of person we necessarily wanted to have on our campus, at least not escorted. So that system ties to anybody that may have had any kind of problem with law enforcement from a sexual manner or so forth. So we can flag them and actually shows a picture of them up on the screen so we know that they're somebody we may want to talk to before we have them on our campus. It also does a couple of other things that have really been beneficial to us. It puts as a tag, it has a picture, so if somebody's walking around your campus and they may be in an area that you don't know, or they don't know where they're at, you can actually see it. It shows whether they should be in the kindergarten area or they should be in the 6th grade area. It gives us that opportunity to greet them, follow them, make sure that we get them in the right location or area. In the case of an emergency or an earthquake type of situation, it really does a good job because we now have a record of who's on that campus. So if something was to go wrong, we had a major earthquake, we can go back and look at the data files to find out who's actually on that campus, make sure we can take care of getting them. The next one I want to talk about, which is really interesting, when we first put in the monitors and the cameras, and those of you who have been at our school site know that we have big 60-inch monitors in every one of our offices. And we put that in with cameras, a couple of cameras facing towards the parking lot area so we could get those last couple extra seconds if necessary in case we had somebody that wanted to do us harm, and that we could go ahead and just make sure that we had those couple extra seconds to react, whether that would be the lockdown or whatever. And then we have one that's actually in the office area itself, and it shows you that it shows the office entryway and those that are coming in to do business in the office. I think one of the biggest pluses that we didn't really realize that as time's up already, oh my goodness. Oh, that was good, thanks. So, can't be up already. Just get through it. Keep going, all right. So, it actually has helped our community to calm down and some of the reactions that we used to have. So the behavior in the office has really improved drastically with having that camera. So I guess if you see that you're on camera, you tend to behave a little bit better. The last couple of items that I want to bring up is some of our training in our active shooter scenarios. We have district-wide training. We actually train 4 times a year from the district standpoint. We have 2 lockdown drills and we have 2 earthquake drills. When we have our lockdown drills, our SROs, they actually accompany us in those, as I stated before. And we also have lockdown drills where the sheriff's department comes in and they actually perform the drill. That helps them to get familiar with our sites, helps us to see the kind of things and situations and scenarios that we would be going through. We've also taken a kind of a dual-pronged approach, and if you put up the next slide. And you know, we do a really good job as far as locking down in our classrooms and turning the lights out and doing all those things that are appropriate. But we wanted to take it a little step further. We want to start looking at having our students be proactive and that they understand that there are alternatives other than just locking down in the classroom. So we put together a little PowerPoint for our teachers. And a lot of you see in their video, it says run, hide, and fight. This is run, hide, and decide. This is the same type of process that our teachers look at, and whether or not they should be in the classroom, whether they should be leaving the campus, whatever would be the safest scenario. So we put posters up around each and every one of our school sites so that we can start learning or start helping our kids to be involved in that. How we're doing that is we're taking from the kindergarten classes all the way to the 6th grade levels, and we know that it has to be age appropriate. So we're allowing our teachers to go ahead and pass that through in a manner they feel is most appropriate for that grade level that they're at. We continue to have DP or safety meetings monthly. That was a board directive several years ago, and that's great. We have a conduit now from our school sites to our district office and our district office back to our school sites. So we appreciate that. A lot of great ideas come back from the school site, and we have that communication back and forth. The last thing that I want to bring up is that we've been going through a lot of procedures with lockdowns and updating and reviewing a lot of our safety procedures, and a lot of what you've been hearing about with lockdowns and in that particular arena. We've taken a lot of time and effort, Eric and I have, along with the cabinet and other input, and looking at trying to really take a systematic approach when we have a lockdown situation or we have a threat of some sort. Sometimes it's just a media threat, sometimes it could be a real threat. So we want to take a systematic approach on that. And what we've done is we've broken it down into two areas, operationally and communication. And with that, we've taken a step-by-step approach all the way from taking a look at whether it should be a lockdown, whether it should be a safeguard status, whether or not we're going to be able to serve lunch, at what time we can serve lunch, who's coming off campus, who's not, things of that nature. So from the operational standpoint, it's a step-by-step process, and then we move into the communication, which is even more important, that we communicate with not only the school site, but with our community too. So I'm going to stop right there, bring Eric up, he's going to finish that up. Thank you.
So my title is Public Information Officer. Basically, my job is to communicate with our various communities, families, partners. And as Don said, during a threat or a lockdown, there's so many different variables that our operations teams has to deal with and our school staff has to deal with. So from a communication standpoint, we want to take as much stress off of them as possible. We know that those situations are tense, and a lot could go wrong if you're thinking about too many things. So from a communication standpoint, we want to make sure that we eliminate the need for them to have to send emails, send mass notifications, or anything like that from a site level. All that will be done at the district level now. So I've kind of highlighted a couple key points of what's important to us when we're communicating during these types of situations. The first one is to provide our families and communities with as much information as possible, as efficiently as possible. And we want to do that, of course, with the caveat, we don't want to overshare because that may impede legal or law enforcement investigations during the situation. So we want to get the message to you quickly and efficiently. And again, we want to do that because we know it provides support to our staff. At a school site, especially in a classroom, there's 25 kids in there. We want to make sure that you don't have to worry about sending a message out to somebody. We're going to handle all of that for you. Part of that is to de-escalate the stress at school and at home. Our parents, they trust us with their most precious asset, their children. So we want to make sure that we're communicating often with them during these times. That way, they know what's going on. That's really what they need to feel, that we're communicating with them. And lastly, we want to make sure that we're sending one message to everybody. Each of our community, each of our families, they're getting the same message, and that's going to eliminate confusion and misinformation. We all know the telephone game. When you say one thing to one person, and then that person tells 10 different people, 5 people down the road, it's completely different. So we want to make sure that we're using the same language and the same message with everybody so that there is no confusion. So this is kind of just like a really brief summation of our process. Our process is a lot more thorough than this, but these are just kind of the highlights. So in the event of a lockdown or an emergency situation, we're going to notify our parents and staff via our mass notification system. So we have a really cool system. I put in one message and I can send it to literally 50,000 people at once. So if it's a school site, if it's a satellite site, we can get that message out to anybody. And that also includes our staff that's on site. And we have a large amount of staff that goes from location to location. So our roving staff is included in that too, because the last thing we want to do if there's a lockdown situation, we don't want one of our delivery drivers coming up and trying to get in when it's really tense and law enforcement is looking for somebody. So it's important for us to notify everybody. The next is digital updates. This, of course, everybody knows social media is where it's at, especially VBNG, things of that nature. People are talking online, and that's where they're communicating, and that's where we're going to meet them in these situations. So we're going to communicate through Facebook and Twitter, and also our website, www.vesd.net. Our social media handles are at the VESD Way, so make sure if you're a concerned community member, if you're a parent, if you're a staff member, you follow these sites because this is where we're going to be posting a lot of the information. The third one is we're going to utilize our HD Media partners to share this information. So that includes the Victor Valley News Group, that includes the Daily Press, other partners of that nature. We had an incident a few weeks ago where there was law enforcement activity across the street from one of our school sites, and both the Daily Press and BVNG shared the information that we had provided to our parents and families. They shared the same exact message word for word, which made things so much easier for us. And it actually, I was looking through the news group page, and there was parents telling other parents, hey, calm down, the staff's got this, we just need to trust them. Let's just let them do what they do, they'll notify. So it really felt good from my perspective that the plan was working. So the next thing is provide that same messages to our VESD offices and frontline staff. A lot of times on social media, they will hear something about a lockdown at a Victorville school, and that triggers everybody calling every one of our schools. So front office staff, you know that you get a lot of phone calls. So in these situations, we'll send you a message and you can just read it off, and it'll be the same thing that everybody's sharing. So that will take stress off of you, and if they want more information, they can always check back to some of the spots up above. And lastly, not lastly, but just in our list here, it's important for us to also notify our neighboring schools and partners, because we know I'm getting the stop sign now too, what the heck? It's important for us to notify our partners. There may be times that we need to notify a junior high school or a water district or whoever it may be. We need to notify our partners. So that's on our list as well. So we're trying to really think outside the box and let everybody know what's happening so that everybody is on the same page. And we think that's going to alleviate a lot of concern and, like we said at the top, de-escalate the situation, because we want to make sure that you can trust us during these situations to keep your kids safe, and then we're going to communicate that to you as well. So that's the end of my portion. It's also almost the end of our presentation, so I want to thank you all for being with us here this whole time. I'm going to ask our superintendent to come back up. She has a couple party words for us.
So you can see why I love being superintendent of Victor Elementary School District. Very proud of the work that's being done here, especially the work that we've done this past year. So high five out there to everybody. I want to give a real huge thank you to Gary Collins, Bill Klopping, and Eric for making this happen, and even the live feed. So I want to give them a hand. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for my Board of Trustees. So we have 3 of them here. The other 2 could not make it due for various reasons. But we cannot keep moving forward, and it just gets better and better every year. And we cannot do that without their support, and I appreciate that so much. And finally, to all of you for your support, and we would appreciate input as well. Thank you so much for taking this morning to be here with us. We appreciate it. So have a great day.